Right, hey people, it's Hugo here. Obviously, big topic these days is understanding data quality. And one way we can look to do this is by adding in tests. So in this video, I'm just going to show you how you can test to see if any of your data has any data missing for like any time period. And in this case, we're going to use DBT. Now, to understand how to really do this, like you're going to have to start by looking at the data. So I'm just going to go ahead and look at some data here. Well, I've got nothing for this model because I've not run it today. Um, That's strange. Looks like I've got some data missing. Okay, cool. So we've got some data here. Happy days. And really what we're going to want to do is aggregate this data at a daily level. And this is going to be tricky because we've got timestamps here. So in order to understand how to do this, we're going to have to write a query, and I'm going to go ahead and fetch one that I did earlier. So in this case, I'm going to group the data by the relevant time period, and then I'm going to stage it, and then let's ignore this final bit here. Cool. So we can see, well, the data's not ordered, so let's order it. Cool. So we can see I've got a bunch of data going down here, and we're looking pretty good. We've got plenty of data, days for every occasion. So no need to worry. But obviously, if we did have a date missing, then something would show up here. So by adding this little filter, we're not going to return any rows. And in DBT, or just like generally if you're using SQL to test the quality of your data, the idea is if you can write a query that doesn't return anything, then the test is going to succeed. Like you can obviously play around with that inequality. So say, hey, I have to have at least 1,000 rows, otherwise this test fails. But that's sort of the principle. So in this case, we're going to say, okay, get me anything where the time difference isn't equal to 1. Now, if we go over to DBT, I can show you how to add this in. So historically speaking, you would have needed to put your test into this macros folder. Now there's a special folder called generic under tests where you can add your tests. And this is how you write it. It's a little bit similar to what I just wrote, but it's parameterized. So you have to start with this weird curly bracket percentage syntax and finish with it too. Give your test a name, hopefully the name, same thing as the file. I always forget to change that, it's really annoying. Model and column name are going to be like auto-populated from the model and the column name you put the test on. Date period and lookback days are just two additional variables that I've put in here. And we can see we've generalized the query. I just ran in BigQuery a bit. Date period is essentially like the day or the week or like the minute or the hour. And then a look back days is just a parameter for filtering the data, right? If you're making sure that the data is complete every single day and it's always passing, potentially there's limited value in scanning and grouping your entire table every single day. You might want to, be a bit smarter with your testing. And yeah, don't forget to put those variables in curly brackets. Cool. So then when you add your test, you would add it like this. So here I've got my table, and then I've got the name of the column that has the timestamp in it. Add tests to the column. Make sure you indent. This is the name of the test. And then you put in the date period and the look back days, which is just an integer. And if I want to run this, can see this will be pretty quick, which is great. Cool, and we're happy. So we've got complete data, which is important. Nice. If you head over to like target and compiled, DBT does actually compile the test queries as well. And here we can see we've got what I pasted in earlier, which is pretty cool. Maybe we change this to like week. Check some more data. Maybe it should be multiple of 7, hopefully. Oh, this should also work. Ah, okay, it doesn't like weeks. Maybe let's try hour. Yeah, it's quite a nice test because as long as the delta is just 1, then anything that's not 1 is not going to work. Cool. So that's cool. I've learned something new. We've actually got data every hour now, which is pretty cool. Nice. So this is what you'd have to do if you had data that's not at the granularity that you want to check it at. So like event data. If you had like an aggregate table that was 1 row per day, for instance, then you wouldn't need this neutral group. So here I've just done a simpler test and given it a different name. So that is how you add a test. Obviously, once you've done this, it's just a question of putting this onto any YAML file you want. So I guess we can go ahead and add that in somewhere. Maybe like an aggregator table. This one. Published date. Well, here we shouldn't need the grouping in theory, because this will be 1 row per day, I think. Oh no, it's not. Oh no, okay. So we will need the grouping. But if we do that and then we copy this, hopefully this will also have complete data. No. Unrecognized published time. Did I mean published date? Probably. Ah. Oops. So what I've failed to do there is parameterize my test properly. Okay, and now we're not happy because that is trying to convert a date to a timestamp. If we just double check that the test still works, that's okay. Timestamp trunk, yeah. So we're going to want to cast this to a timestamp. Should work. Timestamp sub, look back days. That should be all we need. Nope. All right, I'm gonna go and find this. Okay, so it's actually cast as timestamp. There's no column, and this will work. No. Okay, I'm going to come back and work out how to do this, and then I'm going to show you how you run these tests and yeah, that'll be part 2. Okay, so I'm back and I worked out how the test was failing. It was because there was a date here that was trying to be compared to a timestamp, and BigQuery doesn't like that, so I added in a cast, and now you can see that aggregated is passing the test, and so is clean. So yeah, we added this in, and something else you can see from my terminal is I merged this into main while we were away, and yeah, that means that this is now in production, so we're ready to run this test. Now, this is Orchestra. We're a sort of data platform, and as part of that, you can do things like run dbt. So if you click on login, we can go over here, and I'm not going to go through setting up a dbt connection, but I will go through the process of how you configure a test. And it's pretty cool because all you have to do is add this dbt core node and put in your dbt commands. Obviously, if you had something, you could, here we're just testing the models, but if you wanted to do dbt test, select models, tag, staging to make life a bit easier, you could do that too. And then, yeah, that's kind of all you need to do. You can run this here, and here's one I ran earlier. So in this case, we can see that our tests have succeeded. This is our missing time test, and it's pretty cool because you can also see the number of bytes that have been used to process this. Obviously, if you wanted to get an alert, if this fails, it's just a question of configuring an alert here, sort of send stuff to like Slack or Teams or email or any arbitrary destination. And then in terms of actually like monitoring this, you can check out in the assets view, which is just so cool because we're essentially pulling in data from our dbt runs and from all of our end-to-end pipelines, and monitoring things like the query usage, like the amount of stuff that we're costing over time. So yeah, that's how we can build data quality checks into our data pipelines so we can ensure that data is complete using dbt core and Orchestra. If you like this, please hit like, add a comment, hit subscribe, and I'll see you soon.